Okay, we're in the Mishneh Torah. This is chapter 3 of Hilchot, Tefillin, Mezuzah, and Sefer Torah in the book of Sefer Ahavah, the book of love. So, chapter 3, Parak Gimel. These are 8 laws regarding the making of Tefillin that are all laws given to Moshe at Sinai, and therefore they are all imperative. If one altered a single one of them, they are invalidated. They are that they be square, that they be sewn in square form, equal in length and width, and their diagonals must be those of a square, so that all the angles shall be equal. That the leather of the head of the tefillin of the head be embossed with the form of a shin on the right and left sides. That the Torah portions within be wrapped in a cloth cover, and that they be wrapped in hair over the cover, and then be inserted into their housing, that they be sewn with sinew, that a passage be fashioned in the leather housing so the strap can pass through it, allowing it to move back and forth freely through its loop, that the straps be black, and that their knot be the specific dollop-shaped knot. How are the tefillin of the head made? One takes a cubic piece of wood, and I'll stop there. So the dollop-shaped knot, so there's 2 customs on that. It sounds like he's for the single dollop. I wear a single dollop knot. And that's the knot that goes right here behind your head. So there's like a little bone that you kind of feel at the back of your skull. And then the knot should be right about there at that bone. And there is 2 customs, and I think that that's a reference to the name of God. Because you're spelling shin dalet yod, but there's also this idea that there's the 4-letter name of God, and it's an interchange with the other 4-letter name of God. So yod hey bavav hey interchanges with aleph dalet nun yod, and so you have some people have the custom of having a knot that's a double dalet. So it's this shape of a dalet, and then another dalet, upside down, so opposing each other. And that's actually a reflection of the Star of David that you see on the Israeli flag today. But it's not really called a Star of David. It's actually called the Magen Ben David, is the appropriate name historically, way back. We've kind of dropped the Ben David and the Ben, and it's just Magen David today. But a long time ago it was the Magen Ben David, and which means the shield of the son of David, which is Mashiach. And again, I have a video on this. Why would Mashiach need a shield? And it's because he's human, and his shield is Hashem. But the Star of David, we call it the Star of David, and this is probably why it got that name, is because, so the star has 6 points, so that's the letter Yud. But the triangle was the Libona'ah, the old Ivrit alphabet for the letter Dalet. So if you have a Dalet and you have another Dalet and you have a 6 point, you have 6 points on that star. So Dalet Vav Dalet is David. But anyway, so some customs are to have the double Dalet, which is almost like a reflection of the Octagrammaton, the 8-letter name of God. And as well as the Star of David or the Magen Ben David. So anyway, so how are tefillin of the head made? One takes a cubic piece of wood, equal in length, width, and height. Though if its height was greater or less than its width, it is no matter. One must be particular only in that its length must be equal its width. 3 grooves are cut into it so that it is divided into 4 protrusions, like so. Okay? There's 4 protrusions. There's actually some good videos online of how tefillin is made, and it's actually kind of amazing. It reminds us a little bit of the menorah, how the menorah was made. It was supposed to be made of one single piece of metal, but it's made into tubes and branches and design and everything. So it's just an interesting process. It says, then one takes a piece of leather, wets it with water, and wraps it around the wooden block, inserting the leather into each groove. It is manipulated on both sides until, while still damp, so that the form of a shin is fashioned in the leather. A 3-headed shin to the right of the wearer, and a 4-headed shin to the left of the wearer. So what does this look like? Oh. Some of you that have not seen that, so you can actually see, I don't know, maybe you can see the different compartments, maybe the reflection, you can kind of see that. Then you have a 4-letter shin, and then a 4-prong shin and 3-prong shin. So these are traditions that came down from Moses. Oh, and the knot. So you can see the knot that goes on the back of your head. It's in the shape of a dalet, right? So, okay. And that's also, if you know anything about the alphabet, the Ivrit alphabet, or the Libon script, it had basically the dalet is a representation of the opening of a doorway. So it's interesting because we're basically saying that the opening of we're referring to an opening right here, but we also claim that there's an opening here. This is the soft part of your skull where it goes, right? When you put the tefillin on your head, it's basically at this spot, which is the soft spot of a child when they're born, which is like a closer connection to your brain. And the dalet goes back here, and the dalet is basically, it's almost like a claim that it's an opening. It's a symbol that it means that it's an opening. It's a gateway, right? And ultimately, your brain, massive receptor. Like, we can pick up all kinds of signals and things about our environment. And there's stuff that we don't even know how to control our bodies anymore. People just do whatever they want in the world. They follow their passions and desires, and they don't even learn how to control their bodies. And here we go. We have a spiritual tool. Actually multiple tools. But these are spiritual tools. These are not like, it's not just, I just, wrap some leather on my arm. These are spiritual tools. They're not toys. They're not just little tiny symbols that we're like, we wear like a shin on our head. No, these are made in a specific fashion from instructions that are thousands of years old that were received on Mount Sinai in the presence of the entire nation of witnesses. These aren't like just some kind of thing that, we're Jewish, so we have tefillin, and Christians don't have tefillin. These are amulets. No, these are not necessarily like an amulet like you'd think of an amulet. These are spiritual tools. When you study Torah, when you pray, these are spiritual tools of concentration, meditation. Some people probably not comfortable with the words like channels, but that's exactly what these are. These are tools for spiritual connections. These are not just like some kind of representation and sign that you wear on your body. If you think that it's a sign that you wear on your body, you're absolutely mistaken. You're putting the name of God on your body in multiple ways. You're wrapping it with a creature that once lived, a hayot, a living being, that you're wrapping and attaching this device to your body. They are spiritual receptors. What do we do with antennas? Does anybody know anything about antennas? Sometimes antennas in like transformers, they're coiled, right? These are not like, these are like life transformers, just like electrical transformers. You see that they're like wrapped wire. These are like spiritual transformers, where there's a spiritual energy out there, and it's meant to pick that up and amplify it for the individual who wears it. It is the name of God placed upon you in the form of a spiritual device. So, Continuing, when one takes a piece of leather, wets it with water, wraps it around a wooden block, inserting leather into each groove, it is manipulated on both sides while still damp so that it forms a shin and is fashioned in the leather, 3-headed shin on the right, 4-headed shin to the left. Okay, and it says the hide is left on the wooden block until it dries. Then the leather is removed from the wooden block so that the leather takes the form of 4 empty compartments. One passage is inserted into each compartment, and part of the leather is folded over beneath it to form its base. It is sewn from its 4 corners, and a portion of the leather at the bottom is left open for the strap to pass through like a loop. This is called the maboret. How are the tefillin of the arm made? One takes a cubic block of wood, equal in length and width, the height of a finger breadth, or a bit more. It is wrapped in wet leather, and the leather is left on the block until it dries. The leather is then removed, and the 4 portions are inserted in the place of the wood. And a portion of the leather is folded over on the bottom to form its base. It is sewn from its 4 corners, and a loop is left in the leather for the strap to go through. How are the Torah portions arranged in tefillin of the head? The final portion is V'haya im Shemoah, and is placed in a compartment to the right of the wearer. Shema Yisrael is placed next to it. V'haya ki Iviacha is placed in the 3rd compartment adjacent to Shema Yisrael, and Kadesh Li is placed in the 4th compartment to the left of the wearer, so that the reader facing the wearer would be able to read them in order like so. And there's a picture right there. Okay. If one changes this order, they are invalid. But there is the Rabbeinu Tam tefillin, and I think it serves a different purpose. But anyway, the tefillin of the arm are written in 4 columns on a single long parchment like a Torah scroll. In order, they appear in the Torah like so, and right there. Okay, and it says if one wrote them on 4 separate parchments and placed them in a single compartment, he has fulfilled his obligation and need not connect them. When rolling up the portions, whether those of the head or those of the arm, they should be rolled from end to beginning, so that when opening the portion, each line can be read from the beginning to end. When inserting the portions into their compartments, they should be wrapped in a cloth cover with hair wrapped over the cover. They are then inserted into their compartments. This hair must come from a kosher domestic kosher domestic or wild animal, including those not ritually slaughtered or with a mortal injury. So kind of like treif, right? It is the accepted custom of all the people to wrap them with hair from a calf's tail. When sewing the tefillin, they may only be sewn with sinews of kosher, domestic, or wild animals, including those not ritually slaughtered, or with a mortal injury. The sinews that are used come from the heel of the domestic or wild animal. They are white and firm, and they are softened with stones or the like until they are like flax. And they are then spun and twisted into thread. They are used to sew tefillin in the parchment sheets of Torah scrolls. When sewing the tefillin, they must be sewn in the form of a square. The broad accepted rule is that they should be 3 stitches on each side for a total of 12 stitches, both on the tefillin of the arm and the tefillin of the head. If one wishes to make 10 or 14 stitches, he may do so. All the stitches must have the thread pass through both sides. The grooves between each compartment and the tefillin of the head must reach the stitches. If the grooves are recognizable so that the 4 compartments are visible to all, even if the groove does not reach the stitches, they are kosher. But if the groove is not recognizable, they are invalid. A thread or cord must be passed through each groove on the leather to separate between each compartment, and the commonly accepted practice is to pass one of the sinews used for sewing the tefillin through each of the 3 grooves. Let's see if I can... So it might be a little easier to see it from the bottom, but you see the grooves, and the stitches have to go through these grooves. And there's also on the, get it from the light there. Yeah, you can kind of, let's see if I can get it. So you can kind of see the grooves where the stitches go through there. And you'll notice that actually that they say, mystically, this is important, that little thread that hangs out there, the sinew that hangs out there. Okay, so let's see if how are the straps made? The ritzuot. So these straps. One takes a leather strip, broad as a barley corn. If wider than this measure, it is kosher. The length of the strap of the tefillin of the head should be able to circle the head, to tie a knot with it, and to draw 2 straps on either side so that they reach the navel or a bit higher than it. Well, the length of the strap of the tefillin of the arm should be able to circle the upper arm and to tie a knot in it, and then draw a single strap down to the middle finger to wrap around the finger 3 times and to tie it. If the straps are longer than this measure, they are kosher. So how many times you wrap it around your arm this way is not important. That's just like more or less custom. But he's saying that the wrapping around your finger 3 times is an important component there. So the strap of the tefillin of the head is passed through the loop, and the place the strap passes through, it is measured to fit around the wearer's head, and is tied in a square knot, similar to the form of a dalet. Every Torah scholar must learn this knot, and its form cannot be taught in writing, rather by seeing it with one's own eyes. So too, with a tefillin of the arm, a yod-shaped knot is tied. The strap of the tefillin of the arm should pass back and forth freely through this knot, so that it can be loosened and tightened when binding it to the arm. The tefillin straps, both of the tefillin of the head and tefillin of the arm, must be black on the exterior side, that being a law given to Moses at Sinai. But the reverse side of the strap, because it is on the inside, may be green or white and still be kosher, though one should not make them red, for the strap might flip over and this would be demeaning for him. The reverse side of the strap should always be the color of the housing of the tefillin. If it is green, they should be green. If it is white, they should be white. It is becoming that the tefillin be completely black, including the housing in the entirety of the strap. But that's interesting because you're probably never going to see anybody today that has white tefillin or, green tefillin or whatever. But that is kosher, he's saying. The leather that covers the tefillin and of which the straps are made must be the hide of a kosher domestic or wild animal or bird, including those not ritually slaughtered or mortally injured. If one made them out of hides of non-kosher species, or if one covered the tefillin with gold, they are invalid. The leather straps must be tanned with intent for the purpose of the mitzvah, but the leather used to cover the tefillin need not be tanned at all. Even if only worked as rawhide without being floured and salted, it is kosher, and many places have the accepted custom of making them out of rawhide. Tefillin may only be manufactured by a Jew, for their manufacture has the status of writing them, because of the shin made in the leather, as they have stated. Therefore, if a Gentile covered them or sewed them, they are invalid. This is the rule regarding anyone ineligible to write them. They also may not manufacture them. The tefillin of the head may not be made into tefillin of the arm, but tefillin of the arm may be made into tefillin of the head. For one may not degrade something from a higher level of sanctity to a lower one. So too, the straps of the tefillin of the head may not be used for tefillin of the arm. When does this apply? When they have already been worn. But tefillin of the head that have never been worn by any person may be changed into tefillin of the arm if one so wishes. How can one do so? One covers it with leather until it forms one compartment and then binds it to one's arm. If stitches of tefillin were broken, if they were 2 adjacent stitches, or if 3 stitches broke, even if they do not face each other, they are invalidated. When does this apply? With old tefillin, but new ones are kosher as long as their surface is undamaged and they remain square. What are considered new tefillin? If one can hold a small portion of the leather whose stitch was worn and the tefillin could be suspended from it, and it is strong enough not to tear, they are considered new. But if it is not fit to be suspended from and would tear, they are considered old. A torn strap cannot be tied or sewn, but should instead be removed and hidden away, and a replacement should be made. The remainder of the strap, which hangs from the knot on the head downwards, is invalid, unless its length and width are of the proper measure or more. One must always take care that the other side of the strap faces upward when tying them on one's arm and on one's head.